Does it feel like everything is changing at an overwhelming rate and all the time? Work is uncertain. I think it was McKinsey that came up with a study saying that by 2030, 300 million jobs could be gone to AI and robotics. This uncertainty creates a massive, tense feeling within people, and identities start shifting, and they are shifting. You'll find that, for example, within politics, the political identities are profound now. It's creating a big issue. It's creating a divide, and it's creating tension. He's shifting things within social cohesion. There are a lot of left and right division. So you can see identities are shifting. Even within the religious sphere, you've got a problem with religions whereby they are now juxtaposed to each other. And these things are creating more and more tension and uncertainty. And uncertainty is what the issue is. Systems we relied on feel fragile. And the banking system, the monetary system, we're hearing now about digital currencies, digital IDs and so forth. It starts to take away our freedoms, and the things that we used to have, that we felt confident with and we were comfortable with, are now being removed. So these things are going to be more and more anxiety. And this anxiety, restlessness, constant alertness, this is all stressful. And stress creates that tension. And tension is a very interesting thing, because tension is really profound to everything. When we relax, we function better. Obviously not when we're too relaxed, but being relaxed means we can function better. You see it with sports people, with everybody. They function at an optimal level when they're more relaxed. So this constant restlessness and is a really problem that's going on all the time. Look, really what we're talking about here is stability doesn't come from the outside anymore. It has to be built within. So you can't rely on external factors to create stability. You need to derive it from within, the things that you control. And I think this has been spoken about quite often. You can control your emotions and how you respond to things, and that really is all you can control. So that is something you need to start to look at, and it's going to become more acute as time goes by. As we lose work, we're going to have to raise our personal status. And by that I mean we're going to have to start looking at some of our own moral status, our own values and our own compass, and working around that and building our capacity from that standpoint, a personal standpoint, rather than an external one. So this is about cultivating inner stability. It's not about certainty, and it's not about control of external factors. And hopefully by the end you'll have this episode, you'll have a new way of grounding, even when life feels unpredictable. Look, for a long time, stability came from clear career paths. And now you see that people are working from home. The Z-Geners are creators, creating their own industries, creating their own businesses. And so things are changing. It's no longer these long sort of careers that in my generation we had. All the guys that are really, most of the guys that I was at school with would stay at a job, a single job, would stay at a single industry and work through their life. And that was what they did. It was a lifetime career. That is all changing. People chop and change rapidly, but really it's this new creative type of industries that is and the digital industry that has really taken over. So these paths are no longer clear. Institutions are also no longer stable. We've seen this time and time again. I think obviously you're going to get some very, very big players when we get to generative AI, and certainly super AI once we get to companies that control some of those programs, and I think there'll be a few of them. I don't see how many other industries are going to compete with them. He who has the first key to super AI is really going to rock the world. So I think for other industries, small business is going to be very difficult to compete. So institutions are changing, and it's something that we're going to have to get used to. predictable life stages. So, we used to have it obviously where you'd school and you'd go to college and university, and then you'd go into the workplace, and then you'd have a family, and then you'd move on to heading towards retirement. This is going to go all over the place because we are already looking at the person exists on the planet who's going to live to 200. So I'm not sure when retirement comes or how long retirement's going to be. I'm not sure how the insurance industries are going to respond. There's a lot coming down the pipeline. And I don't think that it's a matter of those set sort of parameters that we were used to at college. I mean, people are going to be trained with MR, mixed reality, schooling will be done from anywhere. We will need social cohesion, in that we'll need social interaction. That's going to be critical. Where that takes place for learners, I'm not sure. But I guess sporting fields will be one of the places. So what's changed? Faster cycles of disruption, and this is genuinely unbelievable how fast things are changing. You could set up, I did for 15 years ago with my oldest son, we set up a digital agency that ran for this 14 odd years now and did very well. But I can see that things are changing with the AI, and you have, we're looking at generative AI that's now starting to affect things. We're looking at predictable AI that's impacting on it, and we're looking at agency AI, which is really having an impact. So if you don't keep up with those trends and those times, you are already out of business. And that's how fast it's changing. That's without general AI. So things are about to take a massive step, and it could be as soon as this year. The fewer guarantees that we're faced with now. So there is really no guarantee other than a rapid change, and other than AI and robotics will take the stage. It's no longer a probability as to whether we're going to be running under SAI or whether we're going to have robotics. These things are coming. It's just a matter of whether we can handle what's coming. So this constant adaptation is one thing. In humanity, one of our greatest assets of Homo sapien is the ability to adapt. But now we're looking at an adaptation that's not slow, and it's not even fast. It's incredibly rapid. So this is going to be difficult to adapt to, specifically mentally and emotionally. We will feel, and a lot of people feel, that without work and without being in control, they are not enough. And of course, this thing about being not enough is a really big issue for human beings. And that creates tension. And then the tension kicks in with all these other areas of negative emotion. So this is going to be a big deal, and so we're going to have to be very disciplined and very tight in the way we go about understanding our internal workings and our internal structures and what we want to attain as an individual. So it's going to be very important. So we were taught to outsource stability, which is really a big problem. When we outsource, and we have done, we're all guilty of this, we just expect the government to look after us. We've given them a mandate, which they never seem to follow, but we give them that mandate, we vote, and we assume that they're going to look out for our interest. And we've done more and more and more of this, where the governments have become the central pillar, basically parents in many countries. And of course, they don't have our best interest at heart. Most of the time, they are bound by capital interests. So this is something that is really a problem. We need to look at internalizing our, our stability. When stability lives outside you, it disappears when circumstances change. So, and as you've seen, those circumstances can change. We look at the Western Hemisphere, where many countries are changing so rapidly. The population, the demographics are changing so rapidly, people just cannot cope. And it's obviously going to lead to more and more disruption and social discohesion. So what have you been learning, and what is it that you're leaning on that can no longer hold you? So what is it that you sort of feel that you've depended upon that can no longer support you? And there are many things that we expect to do. We expect to have a certain career. We expect to have a certain family type situation, and these things may be changing very rapidly. So what is it that you can no longer hold to? Look, signs of inner instability, these things are something like overacting to small changes. And suddenly these small things become major issues that don't normally happen. And you see this when people are under pressure. a constant comparisons where you compare yourself to other people and other things. And this again is where we spoke about earlier about not feeling enough. Difficulty resting. So you can't sleep. Your sleep cycles get shortened and interrupted, which also stresses you further. And the nervous system, the impact on this is not great. You're always in response mode, really in the present now, focused. And uncertainty, look, this is kind of a loop because it goes uncertainty, then you grasp at things, you get to burnout and numbness. Eventually you get into a numb state, and people then turn often to external chemicals and things to help them manage these problems, which is no solution at all. So there's an important distinction. This isn't weakness, it's an adaptation without grounding. So you need to understand that you just haven't got that grounding, and a lot of times people aren't in a position where they've got support to help them with their grounding. Single parents working, the parent working all the time, the children don't have the grounding around them, the kind of stability that they need. And even for older people, you remember you have a lot of friends at school, or you have friends, that group, you all do stuff together. When you leave, you're in a whole nother situation. Those people disperse, and now you got to make friends and you got to do things with them that are actually uncomfortable a lot of times for a lot of people. But that's how you create that connection. So these are things that are big choices. A grounded person can move through chaos without becoming chaotic. And as I mentioned, you see it in sports people, you see it in baseball people that when they manage to hit the ball. In cricket, the same thing. They seem to have a very good stance, and they see things early, and they get into a very good position. They just seem to be able to see things earlier than most people. And so even under pressure, you see great fighters, great boxers, someone like Mayweather, who has amazing defense. They can see these things, and even when they get clipped, they don't lose their balance. They don't become out of control. They keep focus. So inner stability needs to be greater than having try and figure everything out. We're not going to figure everything out. And what it is a constant relationship with yourself. So whether you're going to be using different words, whether you're going to work on your physiology, your physical aspects, whatever it is that you're going to do, focusing on things that you can control and focusing on positive things. It's very easy to slip into focusing on negative things. And if you're starting to be negative, a great way of doing this that I learned fairly recently is to have a positive thought or picture or word that you keep repeating for 17 seconds. And it is true, your mind will then change to whatever that picture is, if it's positive. So here are 3 pillars for inner stability. Self-trust, believing you can respond even if you can't predict. Emotional regulation, letting feelings move without letting them lead. Meaning orientation, knowing that matters even where outcomes change. So you got to know what matters, okay? And you need to have that when you need to have confidence in what and who you are. So let's just think about this for a little bit. Stability is not rigidity, it's resilience. It's a lot to do with having grit and being able to grind even when you don't want to. What remains is steady in the way you handle your circumstances, and you've got to understand when circumstances shift, you need to be able to adjust to them. So you need to say, even with circumstances changing, I'm still steady in that environment. Stability is brought through practice, not insight alone. So these are some of the things you can think about doing daily. Here's some simple grounding practices. 1 daily check-in. How am I actually doing? So I like to have a morning routine and an evening routine. In the morning, I like to go through my breathing and etc., and think about what I want to achieve for the day. In the evening, then to reflect on that, what has been achieved, and personally how I'm doing. You can have what they call an emotional monitor and check in throughout the day to see whether you're positive or negative or how you're doing. 1 non-negotiable anchor, whether that's your walk or journaling or silence, you need, as I mentioned, you have schedule those routines that you do them daily. when you need to reclaim your agency, and you need to do this, you need to focus on what you can influence today. Attention as a grounding, so fewer inputs, deeper presence, and we are getting inundated because the biggest currency out there right now is getting attention, getting people's attention. And so you have to protect that. So you need to protect the inputs and the things that are trying to distract you and have a deeper presence. And making connections is very important. Stable relationships regulate us, creating new relationships. And this is something I'm trying to work on that I'm not good at, is creating 3 micro new connections on a daily basis. And people do this just by the shop they're going to, just learning the name of the person behind the counter. Things like that, just trying to get to know people a bit better and making those connections. So connection obviously stops you from being isolated, and you've seen this many times. People that get isolated and get into emotional stress and get into more or less a stasis of where they're basically numb and they're completely isolated. This is something that you've got to break, and it takes effort. It takes a key focus. So small, consistent practices create a strong inner floor. And it's those constant being aware of it and actually doing things, practicing things, whether it's meditation, active, passive, whatever you're going to do, exercise, as I mentioned, looking at connections, trying to make things happen for yourself that gives you that grounding. So a quick recap, just to finish up. The world may not stabilize anytime soon, but you can. And it's definitely not going to stabilize soon. Encourage a shift. So think about it. From chasing certainty, building capacity. You want to build your internal capacity. And, it's not a threat. It's a condition of modern life. So understand this is one of the conditions of modern life. We've solved many of the very physical demands that we had in eras gone by. I'm talking now pre-dynastic times. I'm talking about ancient hominids that were very, very physically harsh. Neanderthals had a physically very harsh life. Now, even from the hunter-gatherers to the farmers, it was much more physical. Now we have a different condition, and this has a lot to do with mental and pressure. So what kind of person do you want to be in unstable times? And what happens to a lot of us when we're in an unstable time, where we're under huge pressure, we become a person that we don't really want to be. We become an angry person. We can become a violent person. We can become a rude person. So we start to become something that we don't really want to be. And we've got to focus on it. Who is it that we really want to be? You don't need a stable world to live a meaningful life. You need a stable relationship with yourself. So just as in closing, here's something you can think about and reflect for yourself. A bit of a challenge. Name one practice that helps you feel grounded. What is it in your daily routine that makes you feel grounded? Is it spending a quiet time? Is it going for a walk? What is it? And try to protect it this week. Don't let anything disrupt it. Try and protect that time for yourself. As usual, you can go to the Meaning OS Movement podcast, or you can get us on the social channels to find out a bit more about us. And we will see you in the next episode.